So the rise is actually being driven by the services, while global shocks and regional disruptions are also beginning to put some pressure once again on food and fuel prices. Now, the bigger question now is whether this is simply a temporary adjustment in the economy or an early warning sign of a broader inflationary pressure or pressures ahead. Now, for many households, the concern is straightforward. Will the cost of living continue to rise? For businesses, especially SMEs, traders, and manufacturers, the concern is about operational costs, consumer spending, and survival in an already challenging environment. So, this morning, we want to examine what this latest inflation increase truly means for Ghana's economy and how it could affect households and businesses. Also, the role of government and financial institutions in managing the situation, and what practical steps people can take to actually stay resilient during these uncertain economic times. Now, to help us break this down, I'm joined by John Che. John Che is a financial analyst, and he is joining us over the phone lines for this conversation. John, good morning. You're welcome to the Business Breakfast on Z.
Good morning, Mr. Hammond, and good morning to our listeners.
I hope you're doing well.
Yes, I'm doing very well, and, and by God's grace.
We thank God.
How are you?
Good to have you. All right, so let's get into I'm getting some feedback. Let me get that corrected, and then we reconnect you. I hope that's fine. All right. Okay.
That's fine.
Please hold on for us.
We make you love me so daddy. No be say I too sappy. Yeah. But you love me constantly. Yeah. I don't know where I for day. If not be you, the little way. Your grace and mercy, no they feel. You they love consistently. This your love, it is all I want. This your grace, it's my warm embrace. That it back let me see. It back let me see. This your love, it be all I want. This your grace, it's my warm embrace. That it back let me see. It back let me see. This your love, this your love. Never see your kind of love before. This your love, yeah. This your love, oh. This your love, this your love.
Every day I'm seeing proof. Brand new mercies is something true. It don't change on what I do. You stay the same old way. Nothing can make you take your love from me. Hey. No one else deserves our praise. Ooh, you come through for me on the hard days. Tell my story for one day. The only love that's it. Nothing could ever separate me from this your love. It's all I want. This your grace is my warm embrace. Daddy, back let me see it. Back let me see it. This your love is all I want. This your grace, is my warm embrace.
Daddy, back let me see it. Back let me see it.
All right, welcome back to the Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Trevi Hammond, and Your Love by Moses Bliss featuring Chandler Moore. I love the song so much, and and that's why I'm playing that for you as well. I'm sure you're enjoying it. But okay, we have John Che back on the line, and we'll fix the issue, and I'm sure we can have a good conversation now. John, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
All right, awesome. This is very clear now. Now, we're talking about inflation as we have seen in recent times. For 15 months, we know that inflation has been declining until
Yeah.
just last month. For the month of April, inflation is 3.4 against 3.2 in the month of March. And that is a marginal increase, though. But I want to know, should Ghanaians be worried about the latest increase, or this is a normal economic adjustment?
Okay, thank you for the question. I think you recall I've been, questioning us about, the direction of inflation,
Mm.
especially when producer price index came last month and realized that there has been uptick. I mentioned that as far as producer price index has increased, we should expect small adjustment in inflation. Now, if you look at the current inflation rate, which is now 3.4, I don't think it's a serious issue that we should be alarmed, just that it still looks like the external shocks that are even driving this inflation is still not, it's still going on. And if you look at the rhetorics, from both sides of the war, it's likely fuel price will continue to rise for the immediate term until maybe there's a miracle and then there's good negotiation at the end, the war comes to an end. And if you recall, so I mentioned that you can't, as inflation is concerned, it can't come down forever. It's going to be a time that it will start reversing a bit, and I think that is what we're experiencing now. Okay, so it's as far as I'm really watching for seeing what producer price index to be in this month. If we still see it, increasing again, then that could mean that we need to now prepare ourselves that inflation is coming back, even though it's still far below the Bank of Ghana target. So I know it's something that I'm watching the figures to see where we are moving towards. And I think, as personally, if you look at even the cost that Bank of Ghana has for stabilizing the economy, we have to, be wired and still tame inflation to bring all the economic benefits to individuals, companies, and then the country as a whole. So there's much to be done. And we should be a bit worried because you see, as far as something starts spiking up, it brings a lot of fears, and that can even drive the inflation more.
Mm. I see. So does this suggest that inflation, as it were, bottomed out?
Personally, yes, I think it has bottomed up, and I think the last time I warned that there's no way. We could go below 3%. That would be very. There's a miracle because if you look at our historical trend, we have not even gone below 6% before, and we're experiencing it now. And you
Mm.
see, as far as Ghana is incurring a lot of costs in that front and is getting a lot of backlash, I'm sure they are also going to relax a bit in fighting inflation, because for over a year they have been mopping up excess liquidity and looking at this cost on their financial statements. I don't think they would like to continue that trend. Okay, so we should be a bit worried about the movement. And personally, I feel it has bottomed up, and maybe it is more about maintaining it. So maybe Bank of Ghana needs to do well, and then the economic managers must do everything possible to maintain. If not, if they allow inflation to again, then all the costs that they have incurred in terms of their operating loss will just be a unnecessary cost, and the burden will be huge in this year. So I think find a way to stabilize at that 3 to 4% for a while. Because I listened to Bank of Ghana governor, his focus is to reduce interest rate to a single digit. They must achieve that, drive the economy before relaxing. So, and I know there will be a cost as they are even receiving a lot of backlash now, but they need to do more in order to, bring that full economic benefit so that it won't. You have incurred loss and then people start complaining. That will always be a serious problem to the economy.
Mm. I see. Now, in terms of, we're going to talk about some of the things that government must do. I see that you're calling for some things that government must do. We'll look at that shortly. But very important for me now is the fact that you said if I mean you are awaiting the producer price inflation, and if whatever you see from that would tell us either things are going to rise or not. What what in the producer price inflation would make you predict that we are going to see things rise I mean, inflation rise in the coming months?
All right. So I think if you recall, last month we saw a small uptick, right? And I think when we had this, interview, I mentioned that it's not really a cause to worry. But one thing I've seen is that still, the fuel price is still rising. And then as a result of that, transportation costs and the whole utility costs and all those things will be rising. And we are in a season, May, June, we are in a season where normally inflation, is a bit on the high side. So that's what I'm saying. I'm watching to see what happened to producer price index. If you realize that there's a serious uptick in that area, from let's say the 1.5 that I recorded to let's say 3, then that means that it's a very significant jump. And once there's that significant jump, then it means that inflation is coming back, and that would be a very great issue to worry. Okay, because you see, you are fighting inflation on two fronts. You are fighting the demand side and the supply side. The supply side is related to the producer. So if the producer cost is increasing, definitely you will translate it into, like, you push it to the retail, and the retail will push it to the consumer. So as simple as that. So let's hope that this month producer price index is still subdued, or maybe still low. Okay, and then there will be no cause to worry in terms of this small uptick we are seeing in inflation. But if that, producer price index serious significant movement, then that's going to be a very great concern to the managers of the economy.
Okay, right. The thing is that from in February we saw a slight uptick. From February to March, or in March we saw an uptick of I think 0.1%. In February, producer price was 1.4%, and then in March 1.5%. How likely is it to rise again in April?
Okay, so you see, if you look at the dynamics of producer costs, okay, what really influence their costing? One, we are seeing issue of the CD depreciating a bit, and that's going to increase their costs. Especially the things they import. Then again, you also see fuel. Even though it's adjusting downwards, okay, that can offset maybe the pressure on the CD that they're experiencing. So, in my view, for the month of May, I think the producer price index will still stabilize. We are not really going to see serious movement, because I'm seeing a trade-off happening, and the CD is not really moving or depreciating much. It's still stable. So I'm not really, I'm not predicting that we are going to see that serious movement. But you see, there could be some cost drivers that we are not aware of. That is, worrying them. Okay, if you look at the construction sector, the risks, financial risks, and the political risks, those ones can lead to, having issues with your suppliers. And as a result, suppliers can, raise their prices, especially when they are not too sure of how the economy, is moving. Okay, so, that could be the risk issues for the producers. But if, suppliers still, and personally, I feel they have full confidence in this economy. So they may see all these movements as just a temporary shocks that normally happen to any economy. And I don't think they are going to punish our producers for that. So as for month of May, we are still going to see stabilization. But from June, which largely depends on how the war goes, because looking at the rhetorics coming from both Iran and US, it could mean they are now ready to, do worse things. And if that happens, then, the external pressures will really worry all of us. So we are, mostly as the governor said, we are hopeful that, as for Trump, as I mentioned earlier in one of our interviews, Trump is more, tuned to the economy. So sometimes when he sees things worrying the economy, he may slow down a bit, and that could bring relief to all of us. Okay, because as I mentioned earlier, you see the cost that Bank of Ghana has incurred in their books to tame inflation, we cannot, return back to inflation, because if it happens, then it's like everything is going to pick up again. Interest is going to pick up again. A whole lot of, so it's like the whole year that you have, and we have not gotten to the growth stage. We are just at the stabilization stage. So it will hurt me that inflation returns and Bank of Ghana become very aggressive, trying to control it, and as a result, interest goes up again. There's like the whole year we stabilize the economy. It didn't really lead to anything, and the pressures again is going to build up again.
I see. Well, let's move on to some other things, and I'm going to come back to some of the things we're speaking about right now. But the government statistician actually mentioned that the increase was largely driven by services. And for services, we can talk about transport, we can talk about education, restaurants, and accommodation. Why are these sectors seeing price increases, especially at this time?
Okay, so let me take those factors, and explain what is driving the inflation in all those places. So the first one is housing, water, electricity, gas, and other fuels. No, that one is the fuel issue. The global problem that is, affecting, these, sectors. So that is a bit clear in terms of what is driving it. Now, the second one is insurance and financial services. You see, the major factor driving insurance and financial services costs is that, once interest rates has really come down, the banks are not, earning much from interest. So it's like they are now pushing the cost to their charges. In fact, some of the banks, I'll not mention name because this is a public discussion. Some of the banks have significantly increased their charges. If you look at their bank charges for transfers, it has increased significantly. Some of them have doubled their charges, So those things, and the insurance sector too, maybe the risks that they are facing and getting, low returns from their investments, they have also increased their premium in order to cater for, the rising costs of what is happening now. Because see, their income comes from two things: interest and other fees. So if the interest is not giving them much, they have to resort to fees. So most of these financial institutions are increasing the charges at that front. And that's why we are seeing that serious uptick in that. Education service is more of the educational cycle. Once school opens again, and the private institutions are taking on students, they will adjust their prices. So that one is also a bit clear. Then restaurants and accommodation services too, what I'm seeing is that, for them to utility costs, because utility is one of the major factors driving this inflation. So, and for that sector, is heavily dependent on utility, water, electricity, because they have to put the air condition on all the time. So if the cost is going up, they are likely to adjust those costs. So at least you could see that, in terms of the drivers, one, the fuel side is there, which is not really our fault. It's more of a global issue. And then the second one is, the banks trying to balance their income due to loss in revenue coming from the interest side, which we should, expect. But that front, I expect maybe Bank of Ghana to do more to investigate the charges to make sure what they want to achieve, the banks are not passing on those costs to, bank customers. So they should be more a bit aggressive, trying to appreciate whether some of the financial institutions have increased their charges. Because if that happens, it's just, derailing, the objective of Bank of Ghana in reducing costs of financial services. Okay, so these are the drivers. And the ones that are very global, we don't have too much control. Those ones, we need to just be hopeful. But the other ones, we can be more we can engage the banks, appreciate, or the financial institutions, appreciate what is happening, and then we will see how we can reduce the cost in that area.
I see. Now, one thing that I know is that services or service inflation sometimes become or are more difficult to control than maybe food inflation and all of that. Why is that so?
Yeah, so you see, for service, those who provide service in terms of for food, you could see clear drivers like transportation and all those things. So now, once you support in that direction, you can easily, and it's more about demand supply. So if you're able to, push the supply by fertilizer and all those things, it solves those problems. But you see, service institutions, we don't really regulate them. There are some few services that you can actually regulate, maybe like the way in the transport sector, maybe fuel, DVL. They have some organized institutions that can make sure, they settle on something. But there are so many other services that, for example, let me use the banking sector as an example. You can regulate it, but in terms of charges, you can't really ask the banks like this should be the minimum and the maximum that you should charge, because every service is different. So there are some specific services that like it's difficult to control, because what is really driving the cost is negotiations. It's not really about setting a minimum price level, a maximum price level. No. For example, if you send your child to a private school, government cannot really tell the private institution to reduce the cost. It's more about affordability, negotiations, your ability to negotiate to get those services. So because of that, that particular sector is very difficult. Do you get it? Because it's more of a human nature. One, the labor is pushing for increase in wages. So if you are negotiating with even the employers, they will tell you my labor cost has increased, so I must also increase my other. I can't pay them. So what do you do as a government? So you can also pay the labor for that service. So those ones are purely negotiations. And as far as labor is seeking for more wages, the service sector will compensate by also increasing their services. So those ones are difficult. It's not for the service sector. It's not really about demand supply. In terms of the way food inflation works in that direction. So food inflation, there are periods that you experience falling prices. And if we get to the season, the dry season, you see that will also be going up. So basically demand supply. But service is the whole year round. It's more of negotiations and more of, allowing people to pay for the services that they want. Not like you dictating, like you can't dictate to plumbers how much they should charge. You can't be setting minimum price for all these services like the way you can, directly influence the food sector.
I see. Right. Okay, John, hold on for me. Let me announce the lines in case anybody wants to join the conversation. Yes, if you just tuned in or if you're listening to us this morning, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nitrebi Hammond. And this morning we're talking about the inflation numbers and whether we should be worried about it. And also we're looking at some of the things that actually drove this inflation up from 3.2% in March to 3.4% in May. And my guest is John Che. He's a financial analyst and he's helping us have this conversation this morning. You are free to join us. You can send us a WhatsApp. If you have questions or comments, feel free to send them to us on 0544-321019, 0544-321019, and we'll read your messages for you. Also, you can call us on that same number, 0544-321019. You can also drop a comment under our live stream. We are streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Please feel free to drop a comment and I'll read them for you this morning. All right, John, let's continue the conversation. Now, interestingly, food inflation is reportedly lower than it was during the same period last year.
Yes.
Why then are consumers still complaining that food prices remain high?
So you see, what you have to appreciate is that the inflation doesn't really mean price is going down. It just means that it's moving up, but in terms of the movement, it's not the increasing rate is declining. So for example, if it was 25% last year, that every month we go and buy products increased by 25%. In this time, it's increasing by 4%.
Right.
Okay, so still we are going to feel it. We are going to feel it in terms of taking something from our disposable income, and especially when wages are not increasing in tandem with inflation. Clearly, we are going to suffer more. So maybe that is the very reason. There are some items that are indeed falling, and I'm sure most consumers can testify to that fact. Cement, and some other products are declining. And most consumers are happy in that area. But in terms of, the everyday food that we eat, that everybody watch, kinky, all those things are not really declining. And that's what really people really consume. You get so we except we get to that disinflation aspect where and now it happens that we are seeing like the currency, the prices actually falling, not rising at a decreasing rate, but actually falling. Then we are still going to complain. Just that you must see it as something better than last year because last year you were paying 25% more, but this year you are paying 4% more. So that is a good. Assuming it was going up again by 25%, I'm sure that would have been worse. Do you get it? It means that like whatever is the price today, if the inflation was still the same last year, you could still be seeing, a very significant increase in the products. And so that is, I think, one thing that we all must agree that we have not gotten to the falling aspect. It's still going up, but just that the rate it is increasing is not too higher. Like it's not much higher than what was happening last year.
Maybe if you can, so is there a difference between slower inflation and prices actually coming down?
Yes, big difference. And one thing we have to appreciate is that you see the way we calculate inflation is that we are comparing last year to this year. So sometimes you see actually the price is really moving up. Just that you see, look, because of the price last year, let me give a quick example. Let's say the price was 50 cedis last year and it goes to, let's say, 52. Still there's an increase, right?
Yeah.
But the increase is also possible that maybe if you compare last 2 years, last 2 years was maybe 40 and it went to 50. So there was a 10 cedis jump, which will feel it bigger than moving from 50 to 52, which is 2 cedi jump. Okay, but still, cumulatively, it's 12 cedi jump. So if your income has not increased significantly or has not even adjusted, you are still going to be worse off. You are not going to be better because you are recording lower inflation. You are still going to be better off. But you see, the good thing sometimes the inflation direction helps is also the direction of interest rates. So even though you are not experiencing declining, food prices or declining food prices of products, actually the interest rates, maybe assuming you didn't have money and you were borrowing, last year you were borrowing at, let's say, 30%. You were borrowing at 25%. So there was even additional cost on you for consuming, as you were even borrowing to consume. You were paying first 25% or 30% on that, and still food is going up. And you are also paying. Inflation is one thing you have to understand. Inflation is another tax. So it's like you are paying double. But now what is happening is that you are only paying 3% on the food front. Interest too has come down to, let's say, 13%, which is about more than 15% down. So your total cost has actually come down compared to last year. And that's a positive side of it. One thing we need to appreciate is that a little bit of inflation helps. We shouldn't always expect price to fall, because the problem with that is that we see when price starts falling, producers are discouraged. The way normally we interpret financial statements, we always want to see increase. So if price start falling and the person is seeing a decline, the person may feel the thing is no more profitable or performance is going down. So you want to shift to other places. So a little bit, that is why the central bank even has a target for inflation to say +2 -2 of 8. So you want inflation to be 10, at least 6. It's even far down because you need a little inflation to push more production.
Okay.
Are you getting it? So it is not always the case that, price falling is a good thing. It's good on the consumer front, but the producers, except that maybe there's a deliberate attempt by government to also support the producers so that as maybe prices are falling, they are also witnessing falling in their costs. And in that case, they are still motivated to produce more. So we should be a bit careful, maybe asking for declining prices. Especially, I don't think producers are happy with that. But sometimes some of the sectors are volume based. So if it goes down, right, it's better for them. So it depends on the sector in question.
I see. Now we know that we've been recovering from
Yes.
one of our toughest, I would say, toughest economic crisis in decades.
Yes. Yes.
Would you say that this latest inflation increase threatens that recovery?
Yes, it seriously threatens it. Okay, the reason is that, you see, as I mentioned earlier, Bank of Ghana has incurred so much costs to get to this stabilization level. We have not gotten to the growth stage. You see, everything about last year and all the losses Bank of Ghana is recording, it's all because of stabilization, right? And what is the focus of stabilization? To now move to growth trajectory. And what you want to do is that you want to keep inflation still low so that you can drive a lower interest rate to now bring production. Because once there's lower interest rates and businesses can borrow at a very low rate and do business, then we expect the production front to increase significantly. Now, once inflation starts picking up, Bank of Ghana become alarmed. Now, once they become alarmed, they want to subdue it, they have to now use monetary policy, and they will start adjusting it. If you start adjusting, interest will also start adjusting. Then at the end of the day, you go to stabilization and you never move to growth. So it is very important and necessary. And this uptick is not a cause to worry because it's not too much. And I don't think we're expecting inflation to fall to the end. No, there'll be a small uptick at some of the months, but still we have to be able to maintain the below 4%. And we must be aggressive on that front so that at least we move to the growth stage. No matter the cost that will be incurred by Bank of Ghana, we must move to the growth stage for the economy to produce, so that production now drives inflation down, and not Bank of Ghana incurring so much cost to subdue inflation. And we must really get to that point. Okay, so hopefully, I don't think this uptick is going to worry Bank of Ghana a bit, because if you check last month, it's 1%. So it's not really too much for him, and I'm sure he is more interested in. Now, GRR is around 10%. GRR is around 10%. I negotiated even a loan for my employees, and I got about 13.5%. So you could see, for now, things are good, right? And we must maintain it to drive the growth before we get to any point of, going back to the inflation. As I said, otherwise, all the losses that have been incurred in the books of Bank of Ghana will just be a waste of, or will just be a waste of, time and money. So we must really, and I'm sure the economy managers are watching the numbers, and they are checking producer price index, and will do a direct intervention to keep, what we have now, to achieve the purpose of the stabilization before maybe inflation starts picking up again.
I see. So at what point does a slight increase become a major concern?
Yeah. So if it's moving 0.2, 0.1, it's fine. But if it starts moving in that 1%, 2%, so where now it's 3.4, it goes to 4.4, it's good 5.4. So those 1% movement now becomes a serious worry to us. Okay. Yeah, it becomes a serious worry. It means that if you still want to achieve our purpose, then Bank of Ghana must be aggressive. In that case, you didn't get to the supply side, and that will not help. Okay, so for now, that's 0. Because last month was 3.2, it has come to 3.4. It's not anything to worry. I'm only hoping that the external pressures will reduce. I feel if the war ends and fuel price comes down again, I don't think you will have a lot of issues to worry about. But if it continues and price jump beyond $100 per barrel to $125 per barrel, then now I don't have any option. Now, no matter how you want to control, you get out of, because it's going to affect your fiscal side and affect your monetary side. So that will, bring an end to everything we are doing. And I'm very hopeful that we won't get to that point.
All right, we can only hope. So what do you what are the early signs that policymakers should watch closely now?
Okay, so I think I'm sure for the past years, we are clear in our minds that the drivers of inflation include labor costs, include fuel costs, and the rest. And labor will start agitating. When prices are rising and all that, when they have to demand more, producer price index will be affected and all that. So for now, I think locally, everything has been subdued and it's good. Okay. But in terms of the external pressures, we must really monitor it carefully. And sometimes try to do a direct intervention in that regard. Because you see, you can't achieve stabilization, you don't move to growth. During the NPP era, between 2016, 2020, they were able to stabilize the economy and started growth. Then 2021, everything just vanished like that. And look at the consequence. We don't want to go to that point again. So we must really watch the external front. Whatever will affect our currency, because our currency depreciation is one of the major factors of drivers of inflation. We must tackle it, once. No matter, sometimes, but because of the gold board where we are getting a lot of reserves, we are in the good position to support, companies that need Forex to do their business, even if the Forex rate is not favorable to them. We must do a direct intervention in that regard. So for now, personally, I don't want us to, sacrifice the stabilization for anything. We must be ready. Everything, and be watching out. Whatever will affect the depreciation of the city, whatever will go into the fuel, like what government did, it has to reduce UPPF, to reduce fuel. And we are seeing the impact. Because of that, on the world front, there has not been any decrease in fuel price. But we are seeing, because of that intervention, and we have to be very proactive in that. You see, if we are able to move from stabilization to growth, and if the 10 returns, the growth will subdue whatever will happen, because the growth has already occurred. So we must reach to that point, get the production, moving, and then whatever happens, supply will be there. So the supply itself will bring inflation down without too much intervention from Bank of Ghana and its related costs.
Okay, so we'll talk about the households and also probably talk about businesses, SMEs specifically, and then maybe we can wrap up this morning. So for the ordinary household, how does a rise from 3.2 to 3.4 inflation practically affect them?
Okay, so for households, they are more concerned about housing, water, electricity, and all those things. And those costs have increased about 12.4%. So it's seriously going to hit them. So there are other ones that increase marginally, and they are not really going to feel it. But there are some inflation that's actually hit households directly, and those ones have increased more than 10%. We are seeing water, electricity, and those things 12.4. We are seeing financial services, our banking transactions 7.9. So those ones are on the high side. Do you get it? Those ones are on the high side, and we are not even seeing proportionate increase in our salaries. I'm sure most of us, we still have the same salaries and we are paying all these bills. And even our money's at the bank, the cost is going up. So this is a serious, blow to households. Do you get it? And in some of these things, government must at least also intervene, especially when it comes to housing. I've seen that the rent control CEO has been moving around, but sometimes there should be a deliberate, sometimes what you see, we have our pensions with SNITs. Some of these things can go into state housing at affordable prices. It's our own money. It's not government money. It's our own money. Or if they are using our pension for some of these things, it normally helps. You see, you can't regulate the housing sector. I'm sure if you are going to rent now, I mean, if young graduates, look at the amount you are paying for rent. But it's because the private sector is, I mean, they have to also get their money back and you get it to do more investment. So if governments can go into some of these things, I mean, we know what is in the past where they build and it doesn't even go to the normal households. But there should be a deliberate, I mean, a policy on that support. I think I read in the news that our president is going to give some mortgage, a very low rate mortgage loans to teachers and doctors and nurses. Yes, so that's why the government must intervene in some of these things. Water, electricity, for some time, why it has been going up. I mean, once we are seeing something, we have to bring some reliefs to them. They get as for fuel, yeah, they have also intervened, and we are seeing a little relief. The education sector too. I mean, the Ministry of Education must engage the private sector. I mean, to try and reduce the cost a bit. Okay, because these are direct upfront to consumers, okay, or households. So there should be some form of intervention from the government side in order to reduce the cost. That's why I'm saying don't even see the inflation around 3.4. That one will be insignificant. But if you go deeper into it, you are seeing about 12.9%, which is very huge. Do you get it? When you are not seeing any increase in our salaries. So there must be a deliberate intervention to, I mean, reduce the burden on households so that it increases their disposable income to be able to buy more to fuel the economy.
Okay. I said we're going to talk about businesses. Maybe we'll touch on that and then one more thing and we can go. Now, for businesses, what are the immediate implications as we are seeing?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, so I think for businesses, the major thing worrying them is more of the insurance and financial services, and also the accommodation sector, because most of our transactions have to do with booking hotels for conferences and a whole lot of things. All right, and especially in terms of the financial services, really worrying us. I think last week I checked my bank statements, and when I saw the charges, it was significant. Okay, so maybe this is we have. I'm sure most businesses are facing that challenge, even though we are seeing lower interest rate on that front. But I mean, bank charges are going up. So I don't know whether Bank of Ghana will intervene for us to help streamline the charges that the banks are imposing on us. It will be very, very, necessary intervention on our behalf to reduce our costs on that front. Okay, and for the electricity costs and water costs, those ones we are also asking government, because you see, you want to drive production. We are in the production sector, so you must directly intervene to reduce some of these costs for us, so that we can also expand, employ more people, and then get the economy moving. So these are direct interventions that we want government to, especially Bank of Ghana, to intervene in the bank charges and fees. I think they are significantly increasing them, so they must intervene for us. I don't know whether they are aware, but that's what is happening. So they must intervene for us to reduce the cost of financial services.
Okay, John. So finally, what should government be doing immediately to prevent inflation from escalating further?
Yes, so I think the drivers of inflation are clear. We are having issues of depreciation of the cedi, also a major factor. Okay, when it comes to and then labor costs and all that. So we should not really. As I said, at this moment, the drivers are clear. There must be direct intervention in all those issues driving inflation now, because as I mentioned earlier, we don't want to go back. That objective of achieving single-digit interest rates to reduce cost of lending, to spur economic growth, that should be aggressively pursued to get to that level. So, whatever the statistical service has given clear indication that these are the factors driving inflation, we must see direct intervention to reduce those costs, to keep inflation at the same rate to achieve our single-digit interest rate and spare economic growth for a year, and then things can return back to normal. So I believe government must look at the drivers, intervene directly, and try to reduce them so that we don't see uptick again in the next month.
John, thank you very much for your time this morning. Hopefully, when we get back, when we get the numbers from the producer price inflation or the PPI numbers, we'll probably have another conversation, and we can look at that. But thank you very much for your time. Really grateful.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Okay. Well, John Che is a financial analyst, and he joined us this morning talking about the inflation numbers here in Ghana, and looking at the uptick that we've seen, 0.2% uptick from 3.2% in March to 3.4% in April. And he says that it is quite small, and so there is no cause for worry. But if it begins to get to very high levels, then we have to worry. And he's looking at the PPI to tell whether we're going to see inflation continue to rise. But government must intervene and make sure that they are putting in place the right things so that we don't see inflation rise even higher in the coming months. And so, very important. If not, the losses that the Bank of Ghana incurred trying to record all these gains would be a waste. And so that is his call to government this morning on the show. All right, so that's how we wrap up today. This has been Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. If you miss any part of the conversation, feel free to visit our social media platforms. On Instagram, Facebook, and X, we are at ZFMGH, and on YouTube and TikTok, Z Multimedia. We'll put a video there. You can go and play back and make sense of exactly what we've spoken about this morning right here on the show. It's been great driving you from 6:15 till now. We wrap up and we come back tomorrow at exactly 6:15 a.m. Very interesting conversations coming up tomorrow, and so you don't want to miss any of the things we'll be discussing tomorrow. Maybe just to give you a tip of the iceberg. Tomorrow we are talking about smart investment decisions for business expansion. So if you're looking forward to expanding your business and you need investment ideas or directions or investment ideas, then you should tune into the show tomorrow and enjoy the conversation around smart investment decisions for business expansion. So very important conversation. Please don't miss it tomorrow. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care of yourself, and when you think Ghana, think Z. Up next is A Brighter Side with Jeremy Okoria Mako. My name is Ni Trebi Hammond. Stay tuned to Z101.9 FM.
Also do follow us on all our socials, on TikTok at Z Multimedia, LinkedIn at Z Multimedia, YouTube at ZTV, IGX, and Facebook at ZFMGH.